Getting into the book world can be so intimidating, especially with like Book Talk and Bookstagram. There are people who read like 30 books a month, and not gonna lie, even me who reads like 6 books a month, I still get overwhelmed. So if you're new to the book world, don't worry, I have your back. So here's a list of a few books that I think anyone can jump in and read and will definitely capture your attention, allowing you to read a little bit more at your own pace, of course. Now, if you are already a reader, but you're dipping your toe into a specific genre, I've broken down these books in specific categories based on their genre. So if you're new to fantasy, this is a great way to dip your toe into fantasy and things like that. So I hope this video helps as many people as possible. Now let's jump right into it. Now the first category is romance, which I broke down into 2 different subcategories: romance with no spice and romance with spice, because a lot of people either love spice or hate spice or just want something in the middle. So I just wanted to give you those 2 options. I will say before we start, just as a disclaimer, my favorite romance of all time that I think every person should read ever is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. It is so good, but because I always recommend it, I did pick other books because I just need to give a little bit more variety. So up first is the no spice option. This is When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This book had me kicking up my feet. It was so freaking good. Even for like a book with absolutely no spice, by the way. It was just like giving you everything you needed, like the tension, the back and forth, the dual POV, small town romance, grumpy sunshine, like everything that you would want in a romance book, this book had, and I loved their banter. It was so good. If you don't already know, this book follows Amelia Rose. She's like a pop star who's just tired of her busy, chaotic life and just wants to get away to find herself again. So inspired by one of her favorite Audrey Hepburn movies, it was Roman Holiday, I believe, she decides to take her own Roman holiday, and then she goes to Rome, Kentucky, which is her neighboring state, and that's where her car breaks down in front of the grumpy, tall, really cute cowboy of a man pie shop owner, Noah Walker. And Noah's like, I don't have time for a pop star in my life. I don't even have time for love in my life. You need to go. But because her car broke down, and he's a gentleman, he lets her stay in his house for 2 weeks. So forced proximity, enemies to lovers, kind of. They're more like fake enemies to lovers, but it's still cute. It's still cute. He lets her stay, and then they slowly start falling in love with each other, even though they're like afraid of what this could be, because she is a pop star. Like, she has to travel all over the world. She's not always going to be in one place, even though she's falling in love with this small town. And this small town is like the small towns of small towns. Like, everybody knows everybody's business. Everybody knows that she's in his house, and they're like talking about them as their relationship progresses. And it's just so cute because yes, it's annoying and they display that, but it's also very cute that they're so caring and he's such a good guy that everyone knows him. I am telling you, I've never blushed so hard for a no spice book. It was so adorable, so easy to read, and definitely a fun way to dip your toe into romance or reading in general. Now the spice option is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This book is a part of a 3-part series, but I didn't read the other books, and people say that you don't have to read the other books to figure out what's going on. It's just about each brother, and they're all like billionaires, so we love to see it. But in this book, it's all about this black woman. We got a female main character who is black. We love the representation. Who is like the assistant of a really rich man who's trying to like become the CEO of his father's business, but because they don't have a good relationship, his dad like made these stipulations for him to get his inheritance, and one of those stipulations includes getting married, and he's not the marrying type. He's like, I'm on my own, I don't believe in love, people have scarred me in the past, I know people just want me for my money, I'm not doing it. But he trusts his assistant, Iris, and she's like, you know what, I will do you the favor of becoming your fake wife. So we have fake relationship, marriage of convenience, forced proximity. Ugh! Those are like all the best romance tropes, and it's all in one book. So they begin to fake date, but Declan, being the CEO, businessman, finance, 6'5", blue eyes, I forgot the words, but y'all know what I'm saying. Him being that kind of man, he's like, no, we need a contract for this because I don't want you falling in love. Turns out he falls in love first. And I just love seeing a black woman being loved on, and this book just gives that. It is so freaking good. I loved it so much. Yes, there's spice, but it's not overdone, at least in my opinion, and I just thought it was such a beautiful story, and I highly recommend. Now for the fantasy option, I just wanted to give something that was very straightforward, very easy to understand, because I feel like with fantasy, it can be very intimidating with the world building. Sometimes it's way too confusing, and then you just aren't enjoying the book anymore. So I picked something that was super easy, something that personally got me into like the fantasy world, and that book was Fourth Wing. Now I have to just give this disclaimer: Fourth Wing is good. but the second book is average at best. So I wouldn't like necessarily recommend reading the second book, but the first book is definitely a great way to get into this genre. So this book follows Violet. She is like preparing her entire life to be a scribe. And one day her mother, who is like the military leader, decides, you know what, no, you're not going to be a scribe. You're actually going to be a dragon rider. And she's ill prepared, but her mom throws her into this war college anyway. And it's like sink or swim, quite literally. Because if you do not graduate, you're out of here. They're constantly fighting dragons that they also need to pair with so that they can like be an actual dragon rider, but then they're also fighting each other because there's only a few slots each year depending on how many dragons are willing to like get paired with someone. And so you follow that story. The reason why I'm picking this one is because, first of all, it has one of the best book boyfriends I have ever seen. Zayden Ryerson is what I would want my real husband to be like. He's very dark and mysterious, and it's definitely enemies to lovers because he's trying to her like immediately as soon as he saw her, because he knows that her mom is the military leader and he doesn't have a good relationship with her. You'll learn why. And so immediately they get off on the wrong foot, but things change, and when they change, they change. It was so cute, and I love seeing their back and forth. They're like love, hate, pretending not to like, but actually liking. Like, all of it was so good. So I guess technically this is a romantasy, but it does have that fantasy element, even though like the world building is very, not amateur, but like very flat. It's very simple for anyone to figure out what's going on. But I think that that's why it's so good when you're dipping your toe into fantasy, because it's like, it's not complicated, it's not taking you a long time to understand, but it still has all the elements of fantasy that you're looking for, and it's a great stepping stone into more complex fantasy books. The next genre is thrillers. Now with thrillers, there was a few options I thought of, but honestly, I felt like this book in particular was the easiest to follow, and that book is Finley Donovan is Killing It. Now this book is so ridiculous, so like almost outlandish at times, but it's really funny. It's very easy to follow, and you definitely don't see the twists and turns coming, at least not all of them. Maybe you'll see some of them, but you definitely won't see all the twists and turns. Now this story follows Finley Donovan. Her husband cheats on her with their real estate agent. Damn. So she's already having a tough time, but now she has to adjust to being like a newly divorced single mom who's also a failing novelist. And when her publisher hounds her for another book idea, she makes up a book idea on the fly, and she does this inside of a restaurant, and she actually is talking about how it's a murder mystery, how she like took care of someone or whatever, and it sounds like she's a murder for hire hitman basically. And so someone overhears her in the restaurant and leaves her a ton of cash to take care of her husband because he's a really bad guy. And so she falls into this storyline of being a hitman, and she's like not intending to be. However, the money's really good and things start falling into place where it looks like it's okay, and you just follow this story. It's very funny. It's ridiculous sometimes, honestly, but it's also very like easy to follow, and you don't see the twists and turns coming. So I feel like it's a great way to get into the thrillers and mysteries, because as you read this, I feel like you can also read more complex ones as well. I also think that this book is really good because it's a part of a series. So if you like this first book, you can continue on with the series, and then you can graduate to something a little more complex. So it's great. For my sci-fi people, I definitely have a good one. It's Hail Mary. This book is so freaking good. Anyone who loves science will absolutely love this book. This book is about an astronaut who wakes up out of nowhere in space. He doesn't know how he got there, and he slowly regains his memory, understanding that he was sent on a life or death mission to save the planet basically. And when he wakes up, he discovers that his crew members are, and he's all alone trying to like discover how he's supposed to save the world all on his own. And so you get to follow his like scientific thinking as he tries to figure it out. It's so genius. It is so genius to me. And he also makes an alien friend, and you follow their relationship and how they learn how to communicate and how they learn how to help each other. And it is like the best book. It was one of my favorite books from last year. I absolutely devoured it. I thought it was so good, and it was so good that even my brother, who does not read these types of books, he usually reads like nonfiction books to help you like become a better person and stuff like that, the boring ones, and he read this one and was like, wow, this book was amazing. So even him, someone who doesn't like reading like fiction, he loved this book. So I gotta be onto something, I don't know. And last but certainly not least is fiction. Now, this book is a book that I literally read in a day last year. It was so good. It was my first book by this author, and now I absolutely love this author. And that book was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That is by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I read her other books. They're very good as well. Now, this book follows the life of like a very prominent 50s to 60s actress, but she was more than that. She was like a persona. Everyone loved her, and she was also very known for all the husbands, all the relationships that she was in. And this book follows her at the end of her life, towards the end of her life, when she's an older woman, and she's finally ready to tell everyone all the secrets and scandals of her life, so she's writing a memoir. And she decides to pick a very specific journalist to help her write her story, and as you follow her story and as it unravels, you understand that this journalist is tied to Evelyn Hugo in a very specific way. And not only do you learn how morally gray this character is, you also learn how far she will go for the people that she loves, for the ideas and the career goals that she has and things like that. Like, this story was so well done. You will not see the things that happen and like you appreciate it so much more. It really boils down to like the fact that it was a woman born in a world for men, and how she clawed her way up to the top even though no one expected her to, and all the things that she would do to protect the people that she loved. And I feel like no matter what, no matter how like morally gray every single person in this book was, you will relate to something in this book. You will take something away from this book. There are so many good lines, so many good quotes, so many good like examples of what it takes to make it, that you will definitely connect to something. So I highly recommend it. I literally could not put that book down. And then ever since I started reading more of her books, and she's just a phenomenal writer. So if you want to read more fiction books, I would highly recommend just reading anything by her anyway. Now that is my list. I feel like I covered everything, or at least the basics. If you have any questions or concerns, leave them down below in the comments. I would love to help you more. But that's all for me. I love you guys so much. I will definitely see you in the next video. Bye.